Greetings and salutations, fellow drift nerds. Tom reporting out on my little tire test. So this is a first update on results. This time around we actually have the study 66% completed. So out of the 9 different types of tires that I had prepared for my test, 6 have already been killed, and therefore data is available to be reviewed. And so you'll notice that Blue Baru isn't with us today. She's still in surgery, and so because of that, there's going to be a little bit of a gap of 2 more weeks probably where I'm not going to be out there shredding. And I got some really positive feedback on my first version of this super scientific experiment. The first video, I should say, and so I didn't want to let you guys hang. I wanted to report out the findings so far. So if I consult my ancient scroll of wisdom, I can see here that based on the last video, which I'm going to put a link in the description and you should watch if you're interested in this kind of stuff, just based on initial wear after the heat cycle, the Antares were in front with 7% induced wear, followed by everyone's favorite, the Kenda, followed by Westlake, followed by Doral. Midfield we have the Milestar, then there's the Lexani, which are big boys here, sparkly ones. The Jelly, the Leaos came in second to last, and finally the completely obliterated Achilles. So the Achilles basically got shredded to the point where 1/3 of them was gone after just a heat cycle. So I didn't really feel like transcribing all this information onto this ancient manuscript here. So I'm going to grab my slightly more modern computation device to go over the rest of the data. Alright everybody, so now let's go over this information together and figure out what we have learned. So with what I've currently tested, you can see that 3 are missing, and yes, unfortunately the Kenda is one of them. Nope, I'm not done with that yet. Main reason why the Kenda isn't done is I was going to use it up in the last event, but I was going to follow the Antares with the Kenda, but as you will see in a sec, or as you already see, the Antares were just ridiculous. You know, they just lasted way longer than I expected, and so I didn't get to actually finish off the Kendas, but they're the next ones to go. So bear with me here. Like I said, once the car is back, we'll torch the last 3 in short order here. But so far, if you now go in and sort this list by the run cost, and what I mean by that is you buy the rear tire for a certain amount of Federal Reserve notes. In the case of the Antares, I paid $41.73 per tire. So it's $84 roughly between the two, and then we just look at how many runs total. That gives you the per run cost. Alright? So in case of the Antares that are currently in the lead, it's just at like $3 per run, followed by the Westlakes at just under $5 a run. The Leaos are a smidge over 5. The Vercellis are at 7. Milestar surprisingly did not do well at all. They came in at $13 per run, and then in last place so far, the Achilles at $15 a run. That kind of stings, you know. So when you look at the projected runs versus the runs to ball, the heat cycle factor, all this other good stuff, it's really interesting to me at least, because when you look at the Antares, they performed extremely well, like ridiculously well. Initially, 7% wear, just, you know, 100% better than second place almost. And then I projected to get 13 runs out of them, and I got 16. So the heat cycle factor is very low. It's a 1.2 because I essentially got the runs out of them till they're bald that I would expect. But the kicker is that the gift that kept on giving, I guess, because even when they were slicks, that doesn't mean that they were about to like get into the nylon yet. You know, they were just good to go. So I got a total of 28 runs out of these, and those were runs at Auto City, not a smaller outlet or anything or skid pad. No, these were Auto City runs with the bank, with smoke, the whole shebang. Really good time. And on top of all these runs, they also lasted through a 15 to 20 second gear brake stand burnout, which, I can't count that as a run, but, they just lasted extremely well. Like, best I've ever seen so far. Even before I started doing the study stuff, I've never seen a tire last like this before. I hope it's not a fluke, I hope this is repeats, but we'll get to that. The Westlakes are so far in second place, like I said. Unlike the Antares, these have a quite significant heat cycle factor, because I only projected 6.5 runs, but got 18. However, their makeup is different in that once the tread was gone, it wasn't much longer before the tires were toast, because I got 20 runs total, and they were balled at 18. But they do benefit from heat cycling. So if you decide to run Westlakes, that's a tire where you really want to do a burnout in your driveway, or take them to a test and tune and just get one run in on them or whatever, just to heat them up and then let them sit, because they appear to really benefit from heat cycling. The Lion Sports, these were doing pretty well also, They also, if you look at the total runs, I got 19 out of these, which is one less than the Westlakes. So far, out of everything I've seen, highest heat cycle factor, and based on the initial wear, I would have never in a million years expected them to last this long. Again, really, if you run these, looks like you really want to not bring stickers to an event. You want to torch them a little first and then run them, because if you just run these as stickers, you're probably going to be done with them in like 10 runs or so, because the difference on the layouts, again, between the number of runs that you got to the courts versus to bald was not that distinct a difference, so reasonable to assume that if they weren't heat cycled, they would get torched pretty quickly. Vercelli were next, also pretty low prediction for run count. They doubled their life through the heat cycle, but it still didn't end up to anything super spectacular. Don't think I'd buy these again. Biggest surprise to me, Milestar. Here it's basically like going where there's absolutely no benefit to heat cycling these based on my experience. They initially had pretty good wear characteristics, but I got slightly less runs out of them than I thought I would. And they delaminated just about right after the tread was gone. So they felt great. They put out a decent amount of smoke, but also I'm really surprised, because I honestly thought that the Milestar, after the initial data was in, I thought the Milestars could win this, now they're in second to last. Achilles. This is just the biggest surprise. Not now, after the initial wear data, I was already pretty convinced that these are garbage. Because what the data doesn't tell you is just how torched these look, It's like visually, they just look like somebody put a blowtorch on them. They were terrible. And I got virtually no runs out of them. They got more runs after the tread was gone than with tread on them, I guess. Grip, excellent. They felt excellent. The smoke output was absolutely nuts. They were up there, I think, in the little smoke competition thing that I had in the previous video. They were, I want to say, the third from the top or something. So they smoked a lot, but yeah, they didn't last. Didn't last at all. So far, the Antares are definitely in the lead still. That could change as soon as I finish off the Kendas. One thing I will say though is that I think that the Kendas are a great tire. Whether they financially can compete with what the Antares is pulling off, I don't know. Because if you look at the price, the Kendas were $75 a piece, and the Antares, when I bought them, were only $40 a piece. Now, granted, one's a 16 and the other one's a 17, but even if you buy the 17s, they're say $50 versus 75. So right then and there, to break even, you would need to get 50% more runs out of the Kenda than you do out of the Antares. And with 28 runs out of the Antares, oh man, that's gonna be tough to do. Like over 40 runs out of a tire, that's something that I've never seen before. So man, it's early to tell, but right now I really feel like it'll be hard to beat the Antares. The Kenda certainly beats the Antares in smoke output and absolutely beats it in level of grip. So I really feel that, what this will also boil down to is not only the cost per run, but there will also have to be some kind of consideration as to what kind of setup you're running. Like if you're in a Beamer or a 4-cylinder naturally aspirated S chassis car, or like me in the FA20 car, you might actually, even if the Kenda should win for overall run performance, you may still prefer the Antares just because they have really good grip and they're not greasy feeling. They feel great, but they don't have the same level of grip that the Kendas do. So they're easier to get lit and to keep going in a low power car without having to resort to running 80-90 pounds of tire pressure. So it's something that you'll have to put into your consideration also. But like I said, this is 66.6% of the data that I'll have to show you guys. I'm also thinking about next steps because this is great. I'm really having a good time, and I love how the logic all works out and everything seems to be coming together nicely in the things that I can identify with this test. But at the end of the day, you don't really get any kind of capability out of doing an experiment a single time, right? I mean, you need to have multiple samples to confirm a trend and make sure that it's not just a flyer. So I have some thoughts. There's also been some really good feedback from you guys at events and stuff when we talked about this, where people voiced concerns over the tire sizes and all this good stuff. So next time I'll be back with the last three and the final ranking based on the per run cost, and I'll talk a little more about how the different tires felt and smelled and smoked and all the other good stuff, and how I feel about currently which one the winner is. And where this is going, basically, I'm thinking that, I've got all kinds of wheels, and I'm going to be torching a whole bunch more rubber throughout the rest of this season. So I'm thinking, based on how I'm currently consuming tires and how many more events there are before hunting season starts, I'm thinking that I can probably go through a pretty good number of tires, and I will probably resort to, if there is like a tie for first and second, if it's getting real close, I'll probably order the 2 lead tires in multiple sizes and do the initial heat cycling again on them, and see if the percentage of wear tracks comparable in different sizes. So like, is an Antares going to work as well in a 16 as it is going to be working on an 18-inch wheel, things of that nature. So we'll explore that more, but for now I hope that you guys found this helpful, and I'll keep doing these videos, and I hope that some of you will benefit from this. Worst case, I have a bunch of fun doing it. So that's all for tonight.